What's poppin'? What's poppin'? How's everybody doing? Welcome back to another episode of Life According to Rick. I hope everybody had an amazing week, or at least survived it, because sometimes surviving is the real win. And did y'all hear Punxsutawney Phil saw his shadow? So apparently, we got 6 more weeks of winter. And I gotta ask, like, who even made this a thing? We really letting a groundhog decide the weather? Guess we gotta suck it up for another 6 weeks. And meanwhile, down in Florida, they've been having some super crazy temperatures. And down there they're not built for this stuff. Anything under 60, it's a hoodie, panic, and space heaters. So from your friends up top, stay warm, my friends. Speaking of things we don't control, last night was a whole adventure. It was a really rough night, and we didn't really sleep at all. For about 2 hours, we were up trying to calm Harlem down until he finally fell asleep. Like he woke up, it must have been like 2 a.m. And, you know, he's been sleeping in his room. And, like I had mentioned to y'all before, like he wakes up in the middle of the night. And I really don't know what it is that has him waking up. And it's like the minute we tell him no, that we don't want him to come into the bed, he starts freaking out. And he's just screaming. Like literally, like we were like, yo, they're gonna call the cops, Fosse, because they're gonna think that we doing something to this little kid in the middle of the night. So we were playing like team up, my wife and I, trying to get him to relax and calm down. And it's one of those things where like we don't even know what to do anymore. So we kind of like turn on the TV to kind of calm him down, even though that I know for his age, turning on the TV is not the right thing to do, but we were just trying to get him to calm down. And we're going to have to work on that and see what other things we can do. But I don't know. I don't know what's going on. And it was just like super wild. And then this morning, he wakes up like nothing happened, fully charged and ready to start his day. Meanwhile, we're over here running on fumes, and here I am showing up to record anyway. But that's what parents do. You don't get a day off just because you're tired. I had touched briefly last episode, about my wife losing her job, and I really won't go deep into it again. But, being home unexpectedly comes with its own kind of stress. She's juggling that mental hit of not working, staying strong for the family and handling everything else that doesn't slow down, especially when you got a young kid. That's exactly the collision I want to talk about today. Work, stress, and parenting all stacked at once. Before kids, work stress felt manageable. You could stay late, you can say yes, you could grind without thinking about who's picking up your kid or what happens if your phone rings. You got sick, you rested. You were tired, you pushed through. Once you have young kids, everything changes. Your sleep is different, your stress is different, your priorities are different. And most workplaces don't adjust for that reality. The thing that really gets me is how a lot of employers aren't set up for parents. They say they're family friendly or flexible, but when life actually happens, a sick kid, school calls, sleep deprived mornings, that support disappears real quick. This system wasn't built for household where parents both work, childcare costs are high, and the world still expects 100% productivity. That mismatch, that's the real stressor. And on top of that, you're constantly trying not to take your frustrations out on your kid. I've had moments this week where I felt the frustration building. Harlem's been testing his limits. me trying to stay patient, and I had to pause, like literally pause, because snapping doesn't help. It only adds weight to everything. I'm learning that growth isn't about never losing patience. It's about catching yourself sooner. Being human is a part of the journey. Let me tell you, it's been quite a journey. So to kind of give you a quick background of what's been going on, and I think I might have touched base on it. So if this is like your first time tuning in and you're listening to all of this, so like Harlem has been, for some odd reason, don't know where it's coming from, but the last couple weeks we just been getting these phone calls from school. Like his behavior has just been super crazy. And we don't know what's going on. We don't know what's happening. Like nothing really has changed at home that would say, "Oh yeah, like that's why he's acting up at school." So there's just been like different incidents where like the teacher has called my wife, and this is what I was saying about, even though she's not working, but like her being home and getting these phone calls about his behavior is like adding to the stress, right? So he's just like wilding out, climbing on tables, I guess he like hit some of the kids or whatever the case is. Now, my thing is this, like he doesn't really behave that way around other kids. Like we've never seen it. Like Harlem is a gentle giant. Mind you, this little boy is 3 years old, 65 pounds. He's a solid big boy, right? So, he is very sweet with other kids. We've seen him interacting with other kids, but I just think that in that school setting, they don't really have like that structure. Like kids are just running all around, you know, just one teacher trying to regulate all these toddlers. Like it I don't see it happening. And then if anything, I think that's why he's behaving that way, is because it's all the chaos. And Harlem is just one of those kids that he has big feelings, and I think he just feeds off other people's energy. So all these little kids irregulated, running around like crazy. The teacher herself has no support, because I've seen it myself. I've gone to the school, to check on him or whatever the case is, and all them little kids just running around, and that one teacher just trying to keep it under control. So me personally, I feel like she could use some help, like an extra body in there to handle all those kids. It literally reminds me of Kindergarten Cop. And if you're too young, because I'm an old head, um, you need to go watch Kindergarten Cop so you know what I'm talking about. But they just running all around, and it's super wild. I mean, I know me personally, I couldn't do it. So kudos to those teachers that are in the education system and in daycare, because handling other people's kids that are just be that they just be on 10 like all day is like, listen, super props to you, because me dealing with my one child, I'm ready to like crash my head into the wall. So I know that it's a lot, but it's just been like a 180, and we don't know what's going on. We've even sat down with like the director of the school. We've had meetings and shared ideas. So we still getting phone calls. So I don't know what's going on, but I'm pretty sure some of y'all had dealt with this, and if I'm being honest, it kind of freaks me out to to say this out loud, but I feel like I'm dealing with myself as a child in real time. Like I feel like Harlem, like I somehow reincarnated in Harlem, but I'm still here and I have to deal with myself. I gotta laugh. I really have to laugh, because it's like, it's one of those things where I think that's the real lesson, right? The real lesson is, me learning myself with my child. Like, and so it's been a heck of a roller coaster, I must say. I know I'm not the only parent dealing with this. You showing up for work, you showing up for your family, trying not to lose your sanity, right? You trying not to let exhaustion dictate your day. And if you've been in a season like this, just know that you're not alone. We're out here doing the best that we can, and that's enough. Feel like when we going through these situations where like you kind of feel defeated, right, as a parent, and you're kind of like at wit's end, you don't know what to do. you know these villages that we had when we were younger growing up that helped raise us and stuff like that don't really exist anymore, right? So it's like when you're in that moment, you truly feel like you're alone. But again, like I said, you're not alone. We're all in this together, and we are definitely going to figure this out. It's temporary. It's not permanent. You know, these kids, they going to grow up eventually, so we got to just correct it as we go. You know what I'm saying? And we'll get it. You know, most days are going to be better than others, and that's a natural fact. 100%. So, don't give up. We will get this. Let's start a conversation because I'm very interested in knowing who else is dealing with this right now. Because like I said, I know I'm not the only one, and if you are dealing with this right now, I want to know how you're handling it. So feel free to send me a DM on my IG, Life According to Rick, or if you want to leave a comment, let's start a conversation. We need to support one another because let me tell you, parenting toddlers is not for the weak, okay? Especially when you're my age, you're over the age of 40, like things is a lot different, okay? So I know some of y'all have to be dealing with this, and I'm very intrigued to know how you're handling these situations. But before we head out, let's lighten up the mood a little bit. Who's ready for Super Bowl Sunday? This Sunday we got the Pats and the Seahawks in the Super Bowl. Who y'all rooting for? I'm not gonna disclose who my team is because I might get some scrutiny behind it. So we just leave it at that. But I know a lot of people are excited for the halftime show for the Benito Bowl. A lot of Bad Bunny fans out there. My wife, she's Puerto Rican, so she's excited. She's trying to do all these little Puerto Rican themed appetizers and whatnot, not your average Super Bowl Sunday, appetizer. So let's see what she has in store for us. Maybe I'll let y'all know next week, what was on the menu. But I hope everybody has a great weekend and y'all have a amazing and great week next week. That it's super positive, good vibes, you know, don't let anybody dictate your mood. You know what I'm saying? There's always going to be somebody out there, trying to be a Debbie Downer or trying to dampen your mood, and we can't give people that power over us or that energy. You feel me? So let's make it a great week, and I want to thank y'all for tuning in this week and rocking with me once again. This is now episode 11. We still going, we still pushing, and I really appreciate y'all from the bottom of my heart. And let's get these comments going. I want to see some comments. I want to see y'all input. Let's have these conversations. I want to interact with y'all so y'all can get at me and we could talk about it for a few. So y'all know the vibes. I will talk to y'all soon, and I'll see you next time.